Thank you all. So tonight is actually a project that we've reviewed once before in the fall of last year. It is the Sadler Senior Living Center at 730 Hodiamont. They presented to us last fall. We gave them some feedback about some items that we were concerned about. And so they've gone back and reviewed and adjusted their plans, and they're back up for us tonight. Mr. Albert Anderson, the designer, is with us here this evening. So we're going to go and review these updated plans. And then at the end, we'll have time for Mr. Anderson to give any information that I didn't cover. And then we can go into questions that you might have for him. So let's go ahead and get started. So to give everyone some context, this is the site of the proposed development, 730 Hodiamont. It is right at basically at the corner of Del Mar and Hodiamont, sort of one block back on that corner of Enright, right by the Del Mar Metrolink station there. So the developer, Anderson Design Consultants, we have Mr. Anderson here, and the owner are the Sadler family, correct? Who currently own and operate the facility that's there. And this presentation will be available to you all afterwards. So if you have any further questions after this meeting, we can certainly put you in contact with the developer. So a little more information about the site currently and why they're before us tonight. So the site is zoned currently for single family residential. They're looking to get a zoning change or variance to allow this new construction building. Are looking for current parking variances, density variances, setback variance, and looking for tax abatement subsidies as well. So this would be a 6-story new construction building, tearing down the existing building that's there currently in order to build this. It'd be about 42,000 square feet with 42 senior living units that are approximately 530 square feet each. There would be 21 parking spaces associated with this new facility, which is a parking ratio of about 0.5 spaces per unit. Costs and timeline, like I said before, the developer currently owns the site. They'd be looking to replace the existing building that's there with a larger building. And construction costs are right around $12 million. They currently have site control. I don't know if they have a time yet when they know when construction is pegged to start. We can go over that in the question and answers, but construction is scheduled to take about 14 months once it gets started. So here are some Google site images of the current site. So this is the current site with the existing facility shown on it. Right there, an aerial view. Here's some street views of the current facility. So this is at the end of Enright Avenue, right, backing up right against Hodiamont there in that sort of turnaround drive. And this is currently an occupied building, senior living facility that is currently operating. So to take people back to what was previously shown to show the progress that and the changes that were made. So this was the previous site plan. As you can see, the building they were originally proposing to leave the existing building in place and do sort of a new building, detached building that would be right up against the edge of the lot. And there's concerns that felt a little crowded on the site. And so this new facility proposes tearing down the existing building and building new in a similar footprint as the existing building, and also adds surface parking where the current parking lot is now. That would be retained as surface parking, and there'd be additional underground garage parking underneath the building, where previously there was no on-site dedicated parking shown. The first floor plan, so you would enter through the lobby. There would be residential apartments on the ground floor and on the floors going up. This is a sort of a typical upper floor, just more apartments and some common space. And then the garage below has additional parking spaces and is served by some stairwells and elevator, and you'd access that from the rear of the site through a one-way drive that would exit out onto the alley behind Enright. Looking at some elevations of the proposed building. So this is the front elevation, what the building would look like if you're standing on Hodemont Avenue looking directly at the building. So we have a brick base with brick stair and elevator towers, and the proposed rest of the facade would be a fiber cement board with sun shading over the windows, and a second story deck patio area. On the rear side of the building, so this would be the side not directly fronting Enright, but sort of fronting that house behind the building on Enright Avenue. Similar build, treatment of the facade materials with a brick base, fiber cement boarding on the upper floors. And on the side of the building, this would be looking at it sort of on the Del Mar side, I guess, Hodemont looking north, similar elevation there. So this was the previous rendering, what was showed to us at the meeting last fall. That shows the existing building and the new building proposed. So sort of going back to what seemed like a little bit crowded on the site, and this new building, which is sort of taken from this rendering is done from the opposite corner, but looking at how that building sits on the site, you'd have that sort of fenced in parking lot right along Enright there, where the existing parking lot is now with a landscape buffer. This was the previous rendering, looking at that back side of the building, what would have been facing the house directly behind it. And this is the new proposed rendering of that backside. So many more windows, larger windows to allow more daylight into the facility, and the building is pushed back. There would be that drive down to that lower level parking garage. So there'd be a separation of, I think, about 20-25 feet between the lot line and the building, even more between the house and the building. Some sort of additional aerial bird's eye views of the building itself. And that does it for my presentation. So now I'll give an opportunity to Mr. Anderson to sort of go through the history of the building, talk about maybe the owner's goals a little bit. And if there's anything I missed or anything I got wrong, please feel free to correct me.
Sure.
And if there's anything you'd like me to bring up or show on the screen, let me know.
Sure. The owner, of course, has chosen to get rid of the old building, build the new. She's currently placing her tenants in another facility. That's why she's not here today. She had another hearing in that area for that. One thing we did mention that was of concern the last meeting was they were worried about the ambulatory exits, which we've created one for that near the elevators now. If you can go to the first floor plan, I can show that right there, which where it says ambulance, and it'll come out and go to the that way, and then toward the parking lot where they can, pick people up. We also did another emergency side on the other side, but this side we chose for ambulatory because it's closer to the elevator. And if they're up on the higher floors, I would assume they take the elevator to take someone down in the case of an emergency. But I've seen them take them down steps as well, but just for convenience, we have it on both sides, kind of. So that was one of the concerns. Now you can go back to the site plan. Uh, we chose. That's the yeah, that's right. We chose to take the parking all the way through because we have limited aisle space going in there. So we're going to direct traffic one way. That way, we'll hopefully meet that code of traffic going one direction. However, we're also proposing instead of that stairwell sticking out to now put it into the common area of the building. That's something I'm going to kind of look into as well. That'll that'll have more space, give us more space in that uh in that area to some degree. So um we brought the building closer to the holding out line and made it parallel as asked to the Enright side. Kind of decorated the Enright Street side of the building to have a pleasant eye on that street. Uh, that's about it for me. Any questions?
Okay, great. So we'll move into the question portion of the presentation. So feel free to either type a question in the chat, which Monique will monitor, and myself, or simply unmute your microphone and ask. Or if you want to see any, go back to a rendering or an elevation, let me know as well. Any questions, concerns from committee members or members of the public? I guess I'll start off with one. So it said in terms of the subsidies that you're requesting, you're asking for tax abatement, but it was a little unclear to me in terms of tax credits if you're planning on applying for any state tax credits, specifically low-income housing tax credits, or if they're just, or if the Sadlers are just planning on privately funding this, but serving low-income households as needed.
She's going to look for the state tax and the tax abatement. She wasn't aware that there was a low income tax deal. She said she will definitely look into that and would consider that as well. She said she was going to make room for low income people regardless to whether that was an option or not. So she said that if that is an option, she will look into that as well.
So is the project currently financed? Will it move forward whether or not they receive tax credits, or would you need to receive those tax credits for this project to move forward?
No, the project is scheduled to move forward, even if that doesn't happen.
Got it. So I know it's been a concern of neighbors in the past, given if you do apply and receive low-income housing tax credits from the state, that comes with stipulations about the population that you can serve in this type of facility. And there are income levels and thresholds with that. In the past, neighbors have expressed concerns about creating concentrations of low-income housing developments in the neighborhood. It's possible they could feel differently about this one, but I would imagine that people would prefer that if this is privately financed, that you guys continue to move forward in that direction, and still allow you to maintain that flexibility to serve low-income individuals, but then also have the ability to have sort of market rate units as well.
Sure,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll bring that to her attention, because I don't think she'd go that route with too many stipulations.
Yeah.
Just if it's just an option, if possible, to help her out. But definitely, this project is scheduled to go with or without it. You know, she's fully getting the funding to finance the entire project.
How complete would you say the design is if you were to get approval from the city, the zoning changes and the tax abatement? Is there still significant design work that you imagine would take place that would alter the look of this building aside? I know you mentioned maybe moving the stair tower a little bit, but do you foresee anything that would be a major change to the design as it currently stands?
As far as the interior, yes, because we haven't did full design development on this. For the most part, we know it'll work, but there are going to be things like exiting and things like that we got to look deeper into. I don't think the outside will change a whole lot, and I might not change that stair either because I think that looks kind of, it gives it some character on that side, and it's other things like, even if I move that emergency exit will still be there. So it's something I have to look into as far as that. I don't think there will be major exterior design change on the building. Interior, there probably will be. She's talking about some of the extra common area, maybe putting some more apartments. Maybe I'm not sure of that, but I know that would cause another parking issue, so we have to think that through as well.
So have you, with this new design, do you know exactly what variances you'll be requesting from the Board of Adjustment? Or is it once you get the zoning change? Well, I guess first of all, are you pursuing the zoning change, or are you asking just for variances to the current zoning?
Just very a zoning change, I believe. I don't think we can be in that same zoning. I don't think, can we, with the multi-story building?
You had mentioned that you had a hearing before the Board of Adjustment. What do you know what were you applying for that they were going to have a hearing there?
At the time, if you remember the first building, I was past the setbacks.
Yeah.
This time I'm kind of meeting the setback requirements. And they were, I guess, just rescheduling because we never finished up with them. They sent us to you right away.
Okay.
And put us kind of on hold.
So if you got the zoning change, I guess if you're meeting the setbacks, with the zoning change, you'd probably be allowed this density. So it might only be a parking variance in that regards.
Okay. Exactly.
I think David was asking that.
Yes, we will probably have to get a parking variance because you really, I think, supposed to have one parking space per unit.
Correct.
So we'd have to get a variance for that, hopefully, where they allow us to have some street parking because it is open.
And for context, there's currently an effort underway to amend and have a form-based code overlay district. I don't think it would cover this site, but for the rest along Del Mar, we'd have a form-based code overlay that would change the current parking regulations from what it is currently as 1 space per unit, I believe, down to 0.5 spaces per unit to allow for greater density. So that in that case, this proposal would meet those requirements. I have a question from Russell. how is the how will this be managed and by who?
It will be managed by Mrs. Sadler, the same lady that's managing. She has a 10,000. The existing building is 10,000 square feet. She manages that, and she manages her mom's facility as well, which is like another, I think, 25,000 square feet. She's been doing this for a long time. Her and her husband. Her husband passed, so she's been doing it on her own for probably, I think, about 20 years. Uh, so she would be the one managing it. Her and her daughters. She have two daughters, I believe, that also work these facilities with her. Of course, and staff. So yeah, she would be the one managing it.
Great. Who else has questions?
Jake, hello, this is Teresa.
Hi there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I guess I don't remember, but is every single unit 520 square feet?
At this time, yes,
Okay, so does that mean every single unit is ADA accessible or?
absolutely, yes.
Okay, so every unit, a wheelchair can fit through the door?
Oh yes,
Okay,
yeah,
and the shower doors and all that. Okay, thank you.
yes.
I was just curious.
And pool sides 18 inches of all the doors, which is ADA as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes.
I
Ma'am.
couldn't remember. I did remember seeing 520 square feet, but nothing larger. Okay.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. They're all basically identical apartments, and they are all of them are ADA.
Okay.
Even though she might not have all ADA people, but we're prepared for any ADA person.
Right, right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I have one, Jake.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Irv.
I'd like to see the site plan again. I'm concerned about green space.
Okay. There we go.
Okay. It seems to me that there isn't a lot of green space that's in there. Of course, there is the roof. Did anybody ever consider putting the green space on the roof?
We didn't, no.
Because I'm wondering if this is a senior citizen building, if I take it, they're pretty much locked into their rooms. And if there's no place to walk or just sort of outdoor recreation, just to be outdoors, I'm wondering, I don't see balconies or any sort. They're pretty much in there.
There is an open balcony at the third level to the outside. There's also in the back, right where you see the entrance into the garage. If you look to the right, that's a bench. We were going to make that green space for them to come out and sit and smoke their cigarettes or play cards or whatever they might want to do. And also, I guess they would have green space up front as well. Yeah, that's right there where the bench is. I just showed that bench right there. That's a actual like a picnic bench. So
Okay,
they'll have some green space back there to go.
okay. So far as utilities, I'm taking it this is going to be pretty much all electric.
Now that's a good question. We don't know. I don't know that yet. We haven't got that detailed in whether she's going to have natural gas or all electric.
Are they going to be responsible for paying their utilities bill?
No, that's all going to be in their rent, from my understanding.
Okay, so then if, for instance, electricity with inflation is up 11% now from last year, and it is, I'm assuming, and everybody else is assuming that it's going to continue to rise. How will management deal with this? If we're talking about an income that is going to be open to everybody, I'm thinking particularly in this community, those especially with fixed income.
From my understanding, most of her tenants are older people that are paid by the state, if I believe, because I know
Okay.
some of her units are like $4,000 a unit. and she also feeds them and do things other than them just living in an apartment. So I believe this is going to be the same case as that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Walter, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, kind of following along with Mr. Irving's question, Irv's question, what type of amenities are going to be offered to the residents in terms of things for them to have activities and indoor wise?
We show a recreation on the screen right now, recreation room. She's now, I got her doing programming to provide them other facilities. I know she want to have them some type of area for prayer and religion if necessary, and things of that nature. As the floors go up, we have common space that has not been assigned yet. I just call it space to be programmed because the owner wanted extra space to be able to give them activities or if something where they're having an event for them to come to, they have that area as well. And that's usually up near the storefronts and the common area, near the elevators.
Any type of physical fitness area room?
She's talked about that as well. In fact, I should have probably showed that. She's wanting to use one of those spaces for to put I guess a small gym with some God, I'm losing my train of thought on the equipment, but what the running treadmill, etc., and stuff like that.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to go back to Irv's comment about sort of outdoor space. So you do show the sort of amenity or the patio balcony, which I guess on the third floor.
Yeah.
But in terms of this space behind the building, I have a hard time imagining that's anyone's going to really want to hang out there, given that you sort of have to walk through a garage to get to this space, and there's just a bench there. Is there a way to make that more accessible so that you access it sort of right off of a stairwell or something like that? And could there be a small little patio area as opposed to just sort of a bench on grass?
Yeah, if you go back to the first floor, we can look at that.
Sorry.
Okay. Can you slide to the left a little bit, because it's the picture, Euro's pictures. I don't want to touch the zoom because it'll wipe me out probably, but hold on. Okay, I'm going to go with mine. Hold on 1 second. I could probably the stair would have to come off the side of the building, either side, because of the apartments. It couldn't come off the back. But I mean, I can figure something out to get them back there comfortably without having to go through the garage.
Yeah, I think it's something that's probably fairly easy to figure out.
Yeah.
I just think to Irv's point, I think it would be nice to have some additional, just a planned sort of green space for them to enjoy other than sort of the deck area.
Well, what about like right there, if you up front right here, something
that could be nice too.
That's all green right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about parking? That was a big topic last time, or the adjacency of the building to the house behind it. Have they pretty much satisfied those concerns, or are there still concerns on that?
Yeah. How close is the southwest corner to the fence line right there? On that corner, it seems like it's like right over the fence or something.
It's right up against the property line.
It's right up against the property line.
Yeah,
there.
Jake wanted. I didn't know that there was no setback up there, so I set it back. And when Jake asked me to bring the building up as far as I can, there really is not a setback line. Of course, we want to put it back about a foot or two, but if you look at the buildings down that street, they are right up on the sidewalk, and so that setback side on the Holman side is, we're able to bring that building up closer to that line.
Yeah, I think the idea there, Mark, was to have this building be more of the same language of the buildings along Delmar and sort of turn the
Okay.
corner and sort of keep that feel.
Okay.
One question. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Amina.
I joined a little late, so apologies. I got the time mixed up. Is it my understanding that the previous building that was on the site, according to this plan, has now been demolished? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and it looks like there's parking underneath the building. Is that also correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And we still have a 3-story structure?
6
Uh-oh.
6 stories.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Amina, I know there was a little confusion on the time, but it would be a 6-story new construction building, about 42,000 square feet with 42 units, 21 parking spaces.
Okay.
And that's
Is this
the,
within the height restriction for the area? The 6?
Absolutely. I can probably go up 2 more floors. Yes, I worked that out with the city before I did the design, what the heights was. They told me that was fine. If that's building was, I think I could go up to 74 feet or something like that. We're not 70. We're like close to it, but not 74 feet.
yeah, I think maybe a good comparison would be to compare this to maybe the Gotham apartment building on the other end of the block of right?
Right, right. Because the Everly, I believe, is slightly taller than this.
Yeah.
Everly is 14 stories.
Yes.
Yeah, the height requirements around there is okay. The city made that clear to me that what I'm trying to do is definitely will work as far as the height requirements.
Okay, I'll need a few more minutes before I provide any comments, but thank you for the update.
Thank you. I mean, it's nice hearing from you too.
Likewise, Albert.
Are these independent living or is this assisted living?
I think this
Facility.
is going to be assisted living.
Okay. So there will be a nurse on site.
Yes.
Or nurses on site. Okay.
From my understanding, correct.
Jake, if you would allow me, I did have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm curious, I put this in the chat about the additional engagement or conversations you may have had with the residents. I'm just interested in what kind of conversations or impressions the most immediate residents have, or what those conversations have looked like in your engagement with them.
You're asking me?
Yes, so your representation of the conversations that may have had. Happened.
That would probably be a question for the owner, because I haven't talked to the community other than in these meetings.
Right, so you don't. So it's your understanding that you don't know of any other conversations that have happened based on what the owner may have told you?
No, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay, you're not aware of them. Okay.
No.
All right, we've been talking for about 40 minutes here. Are there any final questions for Mr. Anderson? And then we'll let him go and we can sort of have some internal discussion. But any final questions or comments or concerns? about the proposed project that you'd like his feedback on.
Excuse me, this is Teresa again. Did I see a food service area or did I miss it?
No, ma'am, there is not. That might be one of her programming situations.
Does she have it brought in or is she
I think she
planning?
has it brought in, catered in. Yes, I believe so. Currently with her facility now, so I'm thinking that's probably what she's gonna do with this facility.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, I heard you say that there was food. Okay.
Yeah. And I also know, she was talking about putting a laundry room in there, but she ended up wanting to go ahead and give each individual unit a washer and a dryer, which we included in that floor plan. Their own washer and dryer.
Is that what's located next to the water heater?
That's
the
where
washer
where he's pointing right
Oh,
there.
I see now. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Now, I had a question.
Sure.
Jake, I'm kind of dealing with a window manufacturer who has some very nice windows. Would it be a problem if we upgrade the windows? Because when you sent me that sample, I was searching for a window manufacturer that might provide windows, because some of those windows, it was kind of nice, but I didn't have access to those windows or Revit access. So I got with my contractor and got with his window manufacturer, and they're prepared to help me work out a design that might even be more attractive than the windows we show. And if we can do that, so
Yeah, I think the concern before was simply the size of the window.
Yeah.
They looked a little small. So I think if you have a window, I don't think anyone here would complain at putting in nicer windows.
yeah, that's exactly it. I just, I'm working with them to pick something, and all of my saw that I had to pick from was better than the ones that are there. So I just want to make sure that's the only exterior change that I can think of that would be, big change.
Yep. Okay, great. Any other final questions for Mr. Anderson?
What window manufacturer did you find that had something that was interesting?
God, good question. I forgot. I have to look it up because it's the contractor's window manufacturer. I mean, I could send that information to Jake. I don't want to waste you all's time trying to find that because I've been working on this so much. I kind of neglected it.
Sure. If you want to send that to me, I can send that out to Will.
I'll send you something on that, the manufacturer and what they got and what he and I kind of was discussing that might work perfect with this project. Because we're also trying to do some safety feature windows as well in some aspects. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, the process will be similar last time, hopefully a little bit more expedited since this is the second time around, but we will have our internal discussion. We'll let you know if there are any further concerns, and then we will pass that on to the Alderwoman. I've neglected to welcome Alderwoman Clark Hubbard to the meeting. Thank you for joining us here tonight. We appreciate you coming and your support as always. But we will get that sent to you, Mr. Anderson, and the Alderwoman so that you can move forward, or that the city can be aware of our decision here tonight.
Sure. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Everyone else, please stay on.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Okay. We will have, just a heads up for folks, I want to get anyone who's not a committee member an opportunity to talk about this project. I don't know, I see I see a few people who are not committee members, so especially if you live on Enright, I'd be very interested in hearing your thoughts about the project, as I'm sure other committee members would. And then I'll open it up to other committee members. So, Penny, I think, David, I'm not sure where you live, but do you have any thoughts on the project? If you're still there with us. If you're trying to talk, you're on mute. No, maybe they stepped away. I'll open it up to other folks. What are folks' thoughts?
Hey, I used to pass by this building when I wrote the Metro a few years ago, and the building she currently owns, it appeared to be a well-managed property. I think she did a good job managing that. I saw a few folks hanging out occasionally, but overall, I'd say she did a good job managing it. But this is a much larger scale project, and I hope that her management, she might want to look at, I don't know if you can just do the little small family management. It looks like it might require a little bit more building management than just a small family.
He did mention that she does run a facility of about twice this size at another location.
Okay, well, I feel real comfortable with the way she's been managing what she has, so that's a good sign.
I thought it was a bit tight. I was concerned about the fact that there wasn't enough space that people could actually gather. I'm thinking with senior citizen from a standpoint of actually wanting to be together, family members visiting, or maybe some families don't want that family member to visit them. And I was thinking about the green space, is that we're going to have to be conscious really now of what we do with our new projects. I don't think that was enough space that was in there. And that's why I asked the question whether or not could they consider going up on the roof and doing some spaces up there. Other than that, I didn't have any other questions concerning the spacing of it. I just thought that it looks more like a cell than an apartment, long halls and rooms facing each other. And there was no common space, I think, on the, either one of those floors where you can just gather and have a 3-minute to 5-minute conversation.
I think
Well,
the
that's assuming
common
that
space
with-
would be sort of this area.
Yeah, and I think that area here with the large windows and sort of with the oval-like shape, I think it offers an opportunity to get people together to sit there in that area. But then, do we have any green that's going to be in that area, plant life, and et cetera?
Yeah. I would agree with you on the lack of sort of outdoor space.
Yeah, I found that observation to be pretty good on Irv's part, because I know the building over, they have a building similar to this, I
I would
believe.
imagine would be our support group.
Getting some
feedback or something.
feedback there.
Okay, so
Walter.
there's a building on the Bolivar that's across from Crossroads School that's probably a similar building that housing similar people that this building will be housing. And just like kind of what Irv brings up, I noticed the residents have to gather in just kind of a tight area. There's no real green space, and they like to get together. People like to get together and barbecue and do things like that. So I don't see that. And hopefully we could, and probably, hopefully have some kind of a sway in getting them to consider more green space, because I think that's a great idea, Irv, and people will need it.
Is there any way we can get confirmation that this is assisted living and not independent living? Because I don't recall that being a part of the initial conversation, but that brings up I just think those are two totally different things that need to be considered.
I was thinking the same thing, Trina, because I thought I heard him say this is assisted to a skilled setting, assisted living.
That's what he said, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think responses were not definitive. It was, I think, I believe, and even with the assisted living, he said, I believe it's assisted living, and that's a little too tentative for me. But I do think assisted living is more than just an office for a nurse.
Yeah, we can absolutely get that confirmation. You're coming in a little soft, Trina. It sounds like you're 30 feet away from your microphone.
Yeah.
Actually, right at my phone. Do I still sound something?
You
Can
do.
I see Trina's comments in that? And I think someone mentioned it in the chat as well, to maybe get the owner involved in the
Yes,
conversation or attend
I
our
did.
meetings.
I did. Jake, this is Cynthia. I grew up at 6003 Enright. I am very familiar with that area. So I grew up there as a kid. So I'm really from this West End area. I guess one of the biggest concerns I have is that the owner, to his knowledge, has not reached out at least to the Moore family that lives right there at that where that building is. And when he
Are they
said,
the ones behind them right there?
yes. And one of the things he said that concerned me, just like I had a concern when they built West End Apartments, it's right at my property line here on Laurel. That has created havoc. I think it's important that the owner makes it a point to at least reach out to the two families there at the end of Enright in that cul-de-sac and let them know what's going on, to see if they have any interest, see if they have any questions. The other piece of that is the concern that is truly assisted living or skilled nursing facility. And I don't think there was anything that made me think it was going to be a skilled nursing facility, but assisted living. The other question I have is, how does she feed all of these people? And is all of this food being delivered from some type of restaurant or some other type of catering service, that this is all they do? Because many of those seniors have issues and they may have special diets, special needs. And the other piece is that green space. People, senior citizens of old, and if you've ever been into one of these senior citizen buildings or had relatives live there, they need things to keep them up, keep them happy, keep them from having mood swings and being in a total state of depression when they're no longer able to live within their homes. So I think that's a very important piece for their sanity, for their peace, for their happiness, and specifically for their health. I think it's very important that we allow or invite the owner of that property, even though this group is dealing with the building, the aesthetics of the building, yada, yada. I think that other piece to that of having a great facility in this West End, another facility in this West End, is hearing from the owner, and some of these extra questions are allowed to be asked of that owner. And I don't know who else thinks that's important, but I think that's a very important piece to hear her vision and to make sure that this property remains seniors, and it is assisted living.
Yes.
And you have that green space and those other amenities that keeps the health and well-being of those seniors in that facility going strong.
Yeah. I will say that the owner did join us for the first time they presented the project last fall. And it was unfortunate that she wasn't able to join us again tonight. It sounded like she had another engagement with her one of her other facilities, but we can certainly get a list of questions for her and invite her to come speak with us again if needed. But would also definitely agree with you about the need to at least talk with the immediate neighbors, if not more, to make sure that they know what's going on.
You did have one on there, Penny Brown. It's from the 5900 block of Enright. She's about halfway the block, but she's not directly down there in that area.
Yeah, Penny, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't
Oh, Penny,
have
you're
my
still there? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have my mic situation. So first of all, the Moores no longer own that property. I'm not sure who owns it now. It was sold last year. And they seem to be doing some work. I don't know if anybody's living there. So when you Google Sadler, it's considered an assisted living facility. I know I see the guys coming and going, and like Walter mentioned, they're outside sometimes when I walk by. I really haven't had any issues with them. But I guess I don't know, with her going this large, we really need to understand what what it is. Is it assisted living? Is it a senior facility? Just, what it's going to be.
Yeah, I guess for Trina, and for those of you who brought this up, is the concern that there's not enough amenities, if it is assisted living or if it's independent living. What's the main concern there? Or is it just we would like to know?
I guess,
Information is power.
yeah, I guess for me, if it's a senior facility, you need programs, things to keep the seniors engaged, keep them active. Because I'm dealing with my mom who's 91, and I know you've got to keep them active. You got to keep them mobile. So if it's going to be a senior facility, she needs some programming, and I know she doesn't have that in this facility she has now.
Here is my concern. If it's a senior facility, I would like to be sure, not that it impacts me, but because I feel for people that live in this area, I don't want it to become a building like Hamilton and Maple. Okay, that impacts me to some degree. It was supposed to be a senior building. It is no longer an all senior building. So I would like to be sure it's going to be assisted living for seniors, and even anything else that is strictly for seniors. And at some point in time, even though they said she's managing another building, but say for instance, at some point in time, that process has to change. Her building has to change.
Cynthia wants our project to happen.
Huh? I couldn't hear. Yeah, I think because we are bombarded in this West End with about 60 to 75% apartment dwellers. And I know the issue the supposed senior citizen building has at Hamilton and Maple. It is no longer 100% senior citizens. It is 100% Section 8, and it's a lot of issues there. So I would like to be sure that we know exactly what type of facility. I know that facility has been there for many, many years, but as she develops it and it grows, we want to make sure it's going to remain that way and stay that way. And I'm saying that for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but I would hate to see that in 10 years, it turns to something else and becomes a drain on the community as opposed to a great facility in the West End.
And Jake, I think can you hear me better now?
Yeah, and Trini, go ahead, and then Teresa, we'll get to you.
Okay, so my concern in asking about the assisted living versus independent living is not that I have a preference for one or the other. It's about intentionality, and I'm a little concerned that what we've been presented and shown doesn't necessarily reflect assisted living. And for me, I don't want to get into all the program, because whether it's independent or assisted living, you're going to have programming. But for me, it's about, if you're deceiving me now at the presentation stage, that means you can deceive me once this building is built.
Exactly.
And I think one of the biggest concerns I've had lately is that everybody is coming to us wanting to build buildings for seniors. And I think it's because it sounds good. But once the building is up, we have no way of holding people accountable to their word. So if you're making a presentation to me and you show up a certain way, I have to believe that you are who you're showing up as. And so if there's deception in the presentation, then I have to believe there will be deception in the building, in the management, and on and on and on. So for me, it's a bigger question. So I was just throwing that out there. I don't know a lot about assisted living. My husband does a lot of those projects, so I'm going to be asking him about that, but I didn't get the impression that it was assisted living. But I do think a lot of all I'm saying is, I don't want to even, there's nothing we can do about the senior living, to be honest with you, if it ends up being something else, because we have no way of enforcing what people saying this building is going to be. But there are ways to determine if a building is being built for seniors. And then you're talking about assisted living. There are also ways you can look at the amenities, what's included in the built environment to know whether or not this is going to be an assisted living facility, a place that would be able to support the needs of seniors that can no longer live independently, whether it's an apartment or a house, but actually need assistance, be it with activities of daily living or mobility, on and on and on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and let me
Yes.
add to what you just said.
Well, hold on, Cynthia.
Okay.
Therese has been wanting
Waiting,
to say
right,
something.
okay.
Yeah.
No. I think that we're all in a similar agreement, but let me say this. And it's, Trina, there's an inherent integrity issue that may be mixed with some medical politics, because there are almost no situations anymore, and it's been publicized in a lot of medical arenas lately, where there's pure assisted living. That's because when the assisted individual becomes in their need for renal dialysis, or they have ports, or they have vascular issues or ambulatory issues, and they have to be seen by skilled people, then the state allows them to send skilled people into assisted living areas. And there's a gray area between assisted living and skilled services. And a lot of our assisted living facilities have blended into semi-skilled situations, or the nurses are complaining that they are actually not working in a skilled facility anymore, because, an assisted living facility anymore, because those patients have gone out for procedures and come back and need skilled services. So there's going to be some skilled care in there. My concern is that if it turns into an assisted living situation where there are dementia patients, or patients, or clients, I'm sorry, I don't want to call them patients, clients who have memory loss, and you have kitchens in their unit, which is only 520 square feet, I see that as maybe an issue. And I see it an issue here where we're not really sure if we need a contract, a covenant. I'm not sure what you do to make sure that it sustains itself as assisted living also. But when they put a 50-year-old drug dealer who has no legs anymore in an assisted living situation because they can just be assisted, you're bringing in another population. And that's been common even with the big building on Park and Forest Park. Forest Parkway, and I think, I'm sorry, what the other name of that street, I'm not sure if that's Boyle, or the name of the building is the Park. They've had a lot of drug problems in an assisted living building because of the needs of the client. Look like they are assisted, but some of them have skilled nursing needs. So there's some gray areas there that I think we probably need some clarification on from the owner. So I think we're absolutely on point asking that we talk to her again.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a lot of questions about the just overall operation. And quite honestly, my impression is that this guy who's the designer probably knows very little about the operation, and the owner is the one that needs to answer these questions. Not that he's purposely trying to be deceptive. I think he just doesn't know.
Being an architect, there are some nuances to designing a building where you're going to have people that need assistance versus independent living, correct?
Yes, I don't know.
So you need to know
his in terms of overall architecture.
Well, one thing, Jake and Trina, when you design, when you say assisted living in the state of Missouri, that person is required to be able to open and close their door and make it to the closest exit. So your design has to match that. That's a basic requirement.
Right, but also they're required, you remember, so we're talking about people that need sometimes outside services.
But that's, yes.
Your building needs to be able to accommodate those things. And that's really what I was getting at in terms of intentionality of design. That's all I was thinking about, but we don't have to beat this one. I've thrown out the concern. We can figure out how we want to move forward.
Yeah, I think in the interest of time, I want to steer the conversation back to just in terms of the overall physical building itself and the site plan. So we've talked about sort of green space. I haven't heard anyone have any issues about parking or size or materials of the building. Does anyone have any concerns there?
May I ask a question about the parking? And I apologize, I was not here for the beginning of the presentation and I don't remember it from last time. Is this adjacent to the other facility that this person operates, or is it in a different location?
This would replace, oh, you mean her second property?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. It's not adjacent though.
So the 20 parking spaces are for the nurse, the 42 residents, visitors, and everybody, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Oh. Doesn't seem like there's enough parking there to me.
Well, this is 21 more spaces than it had the first time. Not saying makes it good or okay. It's just that was a major concern the first time around, is that they were showing 0 parking spaces, and that was not okay. So, but as I was saying before, it is likely that the form-based code overlay district for Del Mar will allow developments in this area to have a parking ratio of 0.5 spaces per unit.
Mm.
Let me go back to just the rendering real quick. Any concerns about materials? Any concerns about adjacencies? I mean, personally, I think it's improved from the first go around. Aesthetically, it's not necessarily my favorite, but it would be a significant addition to the neighborhood, no doubt.
Jake, what is the cladding on that? It looks like maybe stucco or EFS on the lighter side. Is that brick on the other, or is it both EFS?
It's brick base and on the stair towers, and then it would be fiber cement panels.
Right, cement.
Gotcha.
Okay, well, not hearing any, so maybe just a summary recap, and then we'll get into our other discussion here, which also happens to be about senior living. But so what I've heard is that we would like to hear from the owner directly about sort of operations and her plans for operations, and if this is independent living versus assisted living. In terms of the physical building and site plan, we'd like better access to better quality green space for the residents. And otherwise, it sounds like mostly okay with the footprint and size and how it sits on the site. Am I getting that correct? Oh, and we would like them to have direct conversations with their immediate neighbors. Yes, no, maybe
Yes.
so.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Don't all speak up at once.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? And I'm going to ask Teresa,
Yeah.
seeing how she's a medical professional, among other things. If it's assisted living, shouldn't that building have a room where it's either a CNA person, some type of medical person that is on staff? Should it be a room in there that's available to medical personnel if they come in and have to deal with a senior that does have some issues? I don't know, so I'm just asking this question.
No, that's an absolute good question. And most of the facilities do have some space on each floor, so that if you have to render some emergency services or go and get supplies that you need in case somebody has an invasive procedure that needs to be done until city help can arrive, you need some space for that, and that's very on point, Trina. I think that she'll
That's
probably.
me, Cynthia.
I mean, Cynthia, I'm sorry. I think she'll probably, or hopefully, if we raise that question, let us know about that, but that's very on point. And I used the building that was recently built on Kingsland off of Olive. If any of you are familiar with that new building that went up across from the laundromat, the Mi Rancho restaurant, that building is just a perfect design for having a locked facility and a place for the person who's assisting to take care of the residents on each floor.
Great. Good to have real world examples we can compare this to. Alderwoman, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, one, that building Dr. Stearns is referring to is beautiful. And the other thing is, just so I'm clear on how to make sure I can help, the next conversation sounds like it needs to have operations more than Mr. Albert. So I don't want us to just invite him back with the response, and then we have to, he still can't answer questions. Well, he clearly couldn't answer tonight. So maybe we make sure when we come back that he knows, with or without that, we need to have a conversation with her. And then also be intentional about inviting the neighbors on that block, the current neighbors on that block as well, because Miss Penny was saying that there was some changes in the neighborhood over there, so we want to make sure that they're involved.
Yep.
Good luck with that.
We did send out some flyers this go around. I know Teresa and Monique and Cynthia worked hard on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Penny, did you get yours?
mine? Yeah, I got mine.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great then. That's what kind of the important thing about that is people can't say that we didn't try.
Absolutely.
Yes, Alderwoman Hubbard, we did everything to get a really nice flyer to every residence, not necessarily who lived there. It went to every household in that area. And we're about the business of accumulating the addresses of every household in the West End right now. And that's regardless, and they were given the opportunity to not only be on Zoom, but to also appear by phone, which even most seniors have a phone now. And also Monique put on the flyer that they could call her or me and leave an email address or something where we can contact them so we can get more input.
Great.
Jake, if you want, I'm gonna volunteer Teresa and we could do this together. Compile these questions and submit them back to you. So whoever the owner or the executive director of that facility can come prepared with some of these questions that came up this evening. So she won't be put on the spot and she'll be prepared to answer some of those questions, and that will help save time. And if anything else comes up, then people can ask those questions. But I think it'll be a good thing for her to have information at hand, so she'll know what to expect on this next meeting that she attends, if she attends.
We'll certainly provide a written response letter to them. But yes, if you have, if you could help compile those questions, that just makes my life easier. So that'd be great.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it sounds like we're unfortunately, or not really unfortunately, just the way it is, we're not quite ready to take maybe a formal vote on supporting the project yet without this sort of critical operations information. That's still the missing piece of the puzzle, it seems. It sounds like they did a good job of addressing the physical concerns we had with the building, but we still would like a little bit more clarification on the operations side. So we'll get that response letter drafted up, and so that we can continue this conversation. And I would expect that, if not to be at next month's meeting, if not sooner. I'm not sure quite on their timeline for that. So we'll certainly let everyone know. And at
Jake,
this point, oh,
I have one quick question, and
sure.
sorry it's a little bit late, but at the end of the day, and I know we're talking about the neighbors on the street and everything. I know we talked about it at the last meeting when this team presented, but what does the neighborhood, the entire neighborhood, and I know not specifically each person, but in kind of a vision, what does our neighborhood envision for that site? I suppose at one point it was single family homes at that site. And maybe this is the time we may not even have the ability to say what we want. But for all its the positive qualities about this presentation and the project, there's concerns that we've talked about. But is this a time that maybe the neighborhood has leverage to put something else in there that's more compatible to it looks like a cul-de-sac street, for lack of a better term, but a dead-end street. So anyway, is this the time for that, to say that, well, maybe this type of use isn't what we're looking for here? And do we even we don't have the authority, I don't believe, but just what's the vision for what do you think people feel for the?
Well, I don't know what the immediate neighbors, other than Penny and those that are joined us tonight, what their thoughts are. I mean, the site has been operating as a senior living facility for quite some time already. So, and I haven't heard anyone complain about the current operation. So I don't think that there's necessarily an issue with what the site is operating as right now. I know in general, people would like to see probably a little bit higher density around the Metro Transit stop. And that would, this is a higher density development right next to the Metro stop, which could be advantageous for seniors that don't own a car. So in that regards, I think it's possible, but I can't speak to overall neighborhood vision for the site.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know if we will know until, we have the full West End plan, which probably won't be for a while.
Am I remembering incorrectly? And I might be, but did Yusuf talk about this project the last time we talked about this project? Was he, I think he might own property there nearby.
He owns property across the street.
Okay. And do we remember what his comments were?
He was concerned about the facade and how it presented itself to Enright, and then the lack of parking was a major concern of his as well.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay. We're approaching 8 o'clock, and I want to save a little bit of time for this important discussion that we're going to have with Will and Adam here. So I want to thank all of our guests. If we don't have your email address and you'd like to be copied on the response letter, will sort of summarize everything we've talked about tonight, please put your email address in the chat so that we have that, and we can make sure you get a copy of that and you can stay up to date with everything that's happening on this project. And after that, we're going to go into a quick closed session here for just committee members. Alderwoman, you're welcome to stay, and Will and Adam, please stay as well. But if you're a guest, we thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time.